Great beer selection here, man. I got my IPAs, got my double IPAs, my Imperial double IPAs, my barrel-aged stouts, my barrel-aged porters, my barrel double Cascade Imperial Amber pre-Prohibition Belgian Stout Sours.
Hello, great costume. What are you, a witch?
As a matter of fact, I'm what was known as an alewife, one of the first craft brewers of beer in Western civilization.
What?
Alewives helped create the modern beer market you currently enjoy today, but by the 15th century, they were branded by men as witches, as a way to take control of the new industry. However, this gave rise to much of the imagery we now think of when we think of witches. The pointed hat, the cauldron of bubbling brew, even the broomstick and the black cat.
Actually, she's right. Alewives were an integral but now much forgotten piece of the history of Western brewing. You guys should go upstairs and talk to Rob in Ray's Growler Gallery. Why, I think he's with a special guest right now who may be able to shed some light on the subject. Check her out.
That's right, Ori. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce beer writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and author of Beer Lovers Wisconsin, Kathy Flanigan.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Kathy.
Nice to be here. Hi, Rob. It's good to be back in the neighborhood.
So, Kathy, tell us what you know about alewives.
Well, I know that women were the early brewers and they were called brewsters, but they were also called alewives or tipplers. They made a living for hundreds of years by brewing and selling ale, and women could use their children as labor, and women taught their daughters how to make the beer, so the recipes were handed down that way and by word of mouth. In fact, at this time it was almost exclusively a woman's job, as men focused their labor primarily on farming and other duties which took them out of the home. And it wasn't until the 15th century that hopped beer made its way to the rest of Europe from the Netherlands. That allowed it to be preserved for longer periods of time, and it became more and more popular. But until this occurred, the localized women-run economy of ale brewing was in high gear, as the ale had to be produced daily and served to the immediate community around them.
So where does the image of the witch come in?
By the 16th century, with the rebuilding of many communities following the Black Death, ale houses, you might say, were being strong-armed out of the market by larger, more business-minded beer-making interests. One of the ways in which this happened was by the spreading of disinformation about alewives, such as they were a pox on society or in cahoots with the devil, that they were practitioners of witchcraft.
I think of broomsticks, I think of cauldrons, cats, the tall pointy hat. You know, where does that come in?
Okay, the conical hat, the tall pointy hat, that was a way to make them stand out in the market, because you would, of course. The broom was a way to advertise that they had a fresh batch of beer available, and they would put that outside their door whenever they did.
And the cat?
The cat was because barley and malts draw vermin.
Dude, successful day at the neighborhood.
Some people just don't know anything about beer.